Good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to ask you, did you know that regardless of your environment and what's going on in the world, that you're actually in control of yourself? Regardless of what is happening in your relationship, in your health, in whether the petrol is going up or not. All of the things that are happening in our world, whether there's, you know, the government is doing something, it doesn't matter what's going on. We have the ability to be in control of what's going on. And I want you to bear with me because people go, oh, you're going to talk about thoughts and feelings and beliefs and all of those things. And yes, I'm for those things. There's a reason for stepping outside of the beliefs that everybody else is going through at the moment of, oh my God, everything's going up. Oh my God, there's wars. Oh my God, you know, what's going on in the world? Oh my God, there's files. Oh my God, there's, oh my God, right? Because as soon as you tap into that information, you're now being dictated to by your environment, and you're outside of your own magic, your own ability to create, your own higher self-knowledge is a better way of putting it, right? Your genius zone. When you're in your genius zone, you are in control, regardless of what's going on in the environment, right? So when the government's doing stuff, the prices have gone up in the petrol, all of these things, you can tap into that information and it lowers your vibration and it holds all of the beliefs that we have been conditioned to believe from our childhood, right? I'm not safe. I'm not in control of my life. Somebody else is. I have no power in my life. I'm not capable of living the way I want to. All of the things that start coming up are old patterns from our childhood, from 0 to 3 specifically, where we recognize that there is an external world, and that external world, we need to be a part of it, because if we're not a part of it, we don't get fed, we don't get warmth, we don't get love, we don't get protection. All of those things, if we aren't part of the world, then we don't survive. And that's what happens when we're in our 0 to 3 years. We start looking externally and saying, what do I need to get fed? Like, how do I need to behave? What do I need to do so that my parents love me? So that my parents put me to bed, change my nappy, all of those things, right? We learn a certain way of being. And that now gets stuck in our unconscious and programmed like software into our unconscious. And through that process, now that's locked in as like this background guidance system for when we're now adults and we go, oh my gosh, the prices have gone up to whatever in petrol, or I can't do X, Y, and Z because of the way the environment is, right? I can't behave a certain way. And that's true to a certain degree, right? But you can't control how, you can control how you perceive these things. Now, when you step out of that lower vibration, and there is a difference, when you go into and tap into that collective of, I'm stuck in this situation the way everybody else is, and you let go of that belief and you step into the part of you that knows better, that has a higher knowledge, that has a connection to everything, all parts, all opportunities, the superconscious, I call it, right? All codes, all information. When you can tap into that, that's when all these miracles start happening, right? For example, just as a little example, the prices of petrol are $2.25 or something at the moment. I went, oh, I wonder what is on the 7-Eleven app, and I got it for $1.85, right? Just because I had the thought, this inspired idea. And I want to give you another example. And some of you may have heard this before. And I want you to hear that doesn't matter what's going on in your environment, you have the ability to tap out of that collective and to tap into your genius, right? Now, wait a minute, let me tell you the story. I was gonna jump ahead, but I'll tell you the story. And it's a pretty sad story because it's something that happened to me before I met Tim, and I've survived and others haven't, which is really sad because I don't know much about the oceans, especially these big oceans in New South Wales. Up in Queensland, when I was living at the beach, we had these little waves, right? Like we had the reef, the Great Barrier Reef, that would protect our shores. So we only had little waves. I come to New South Wales and there's big waves. And so I'm not ocean friendly. I'm not ocean savvy. And so before I met Tim, went to the beach by myself. There was heaps of people on the beach, and I decided, it was in the afternoon, and I decided, right there near the rocks, there's not many people, and so I'm going to go in there. So I walk in. I'm just in the shallows. I'm looking at the beach, right, and I'm just sort of relaxing. And I take a moment where I take my feet off and I float for a little moment, close my eyes and float. I open my eyes and the beach is a long way away. And I notice that I've drifted out, right? So I don't think much of it. I just start swimming back into the ocean, into the shore. But I'm swimming and swimming and swimming, and I'm not a very strong swimmer. I'm swimming, and as I'm swimming, I notice that the beach is not getting any closer, and I'm starting to get weak, and I'm starting to get out of breath, and I start having that moment of something's not right here. So I keep going and getting weaker and weaker, and I'm getting to this point where I'm like getting water in my mouth, and I'm like, oh my God, this is serious. I can't get back to the beach. And I didn't even have the concept of what a rip was. A rip is, I don't know the technical terms, but it means that there's a current that's going back out to the ocean that goes pretty fast, right? And you can have big rips and you can have small rips. They do the same thing. So I was in a rip, and I was swimming back in this rip, and had no way of working out how to get to the beach. And I was taking water in, and there was this moment, there's like heaps of people on the beach, and there's this moment, I've got to tell you guys, that moment, it makes me a bit teary, because that moment when I had the thought, I think I've got to put my hand up. It was a big moment, right? For someone that doesn't like to spend a lot of attention on myself, doesn't like making a scene, like there was just this moment of, oh shit, I think I'm in trouble, and I think I need to put my hand up. And I was going down, like I could feel the water coming closer, because I just couldn't stay up, and I couldn't get in. And I kept on trying, and I had this moment where I had to make the decision, am I going to put my hand up? Now, unbeknown to me, as I came onto the beach, the lifeguards had left, right? So they weren't there. I had this moment, but then after that moment, I had a thought, and this is really important. I had this realization that I was trying to get back to the beach. I was in my identity. I was in Elizabeth. I was trying and struggling to get back into the beach. The only way that my unconscious knew how to was to swim towards the beach, right? When I realized that, so that's the same as you can put that in any context. I'm in a relationship and I'm struggling to get heard. I'm in a relationship. I'm in a situation where everything's everyone's freaking out because there's a war on, and it's the end times and blah blah blah. And you can tap into that because that's our natural way of being, because we've all been raised that way, right? You can tap into that. But what happened in that moment, I realized that I was trying and I had not let go and asked my higher self, right? God, creator, whatever you want to call it. And so I had this moment where I went, I haven't asked for help. And I surrendered. Once you have that realization, there's a moment where you surrender, which is the pause, guys. There's this moment of pause where you step out and you expand, and you don't have to do that. It just happens, right? This moment where you pause and you stop and you let go. And in that letting go, I said, God, I need help right now, right? I called out to God and I went, I need help right now. Well, in that moment, something came in, right? It wasn't days later, because sometimes that happens to me. When you ask a question, sometimes you get it, within the next 24 to 48 hours, but sometimes it's a bit later. In that moment, because I needed it then, there was a command in my energy of, I need this right now, right? In that moment, I had the thought, swim across the shore. I didn't question it. I didn't second guess it. I didn't ask if I was doing the right thing. There was no time for that. I was in danger. I was having, a survival issue, and I just did what I was told. And I swam across the shore. Well, I find out later from my beautiful ocean-loving Tim that that's exactly what you do to get out of a rip. You swim sideways, right? Because then you're swimming away from, like horizontal to it. And I swam sideways. I just did it and found myself being able to swim and then be able to swim to shore. Well, I literally had to drag myself out of the ocean, and it took me a long time to get back to my towel. Half an hour of sitting on my towel, actually laying on my towel, almost going to sleep. I was so exhausted before I could get the energy to get back to my car. And that night I woke up and coughed and had salt water, and my auntie told me that a lot of people drown afterwards from the salt water in the lungs. Now, I think it was a week later, maybe it might have been a bit longer, maybe it was a month later, in the same exact spot, a strong 30-year-old Maori guy, father, husband, drowned in that very same spot, and that was before I met Tim. And just recently, only a couple of days ago, I saw on a Facebook story or Facebook post of a UK couple, right? Some tourists that were in the exact same spot again, and they both lost their life in that rip. So if I hadn't of connected with my higher self, I don't know if I'd be here anymore, right? And I say this because we can use these moments when we're in danger. We can use these moments when we're in an emergency, when we are desperate. And we can use these moments, these opportunities to connect with our intuition, our higher self, by watching on a day-to-day basis when we're in our identity, in that part of us that's getting trapped in the way the matrix is, right? The beliefs of everyone saying, oh my gosh, here we go, forgetting that this is just another cycle. You can, now you might ask, how do you make that scenario where, you know, you're in dire straits into an everyday life experience? When things are crazy in the world, you can let go of that craziness, pause on a regular basis, tap back in to your intuition, to your higher self, to your creator energy, and get the insight, the wisdom, the guidance from there, instead of from Facebook, instead of from you know, the news, instead of from the media, instead of the friends that are saying, oh, you know, you've got to be careful, you can't do, you know, can't go up and see Carly anymore because, you know, you're going to be spending too much petrol, and, you know, we're going to be on rations and blah, blah, blah. If my intuition is telling me go and see my daughter, I'm going to see my daughter regardless, right? Not that anyone's told me don't go and see Carly, but that's a great example because she's an hour and a half away, right? And so people are not traveling because of what's going on with the petrol. And I get it, because this is why I call it the predominant creative force, because there's things that go on out in our environment that you've got to take notice of, and then become the creator within those frameworks. Like, I know that I'm being more diligent with the way I'm spending my time in the car and all that sort of stuff. However, I'm also doing that through the lens and the filter of my higher self, not being dictated to by fear, by doubt, by worry, by concern, because I know that when there's chaos, there's the opportunity for the movement from one pattern into another, where we're moving from the chaos into some sort of new pattern. And so we can either be sucked up and swallowed up by that ocean of chaos, or we can be in the space where we are still and we are just flowing with what's going on, and be the eye of the storm rather than the storm on the outside. So it's extremely important in these times, with the things that are going on, that we are recognizing our ability to create, that we are powerful, that we have the opportunity to release all of those limiting beliefs, those things that are influencing us outside, that are making us feel small and powerless and all of those things. And when we can connect with that inner wisdom, that part of us that has more knowledge than the little identity that, you know, put your name here, mine's Elizabeth, right? When Elizabeth tries to create her life, she gets a lot less done. So there's a lot less time, there's a lot less resources, there's a lot less money, there's a lot less relationship harmony. All of those things happen because it costs you, your identity costs you those things instead of being in your limitless possibility, right? Limitless ability. So right now is the perfect time to be learning and growing and experiencing yourself as more than what you think you are. And that starts by watching where you're settling for less, settling for lower thoughts, settling for discrepancies, you know, like for boundaries, people that are overstepping your boundaries, all of those things. That's really important, because those little elements, those little frequencies make a huge difference to whether you can hear your higher self or not. And so that's why we've got this month's monthly mixer in my Soulmate Attraction Secrets for Curious Women is the Queen Standard. And we're going to be doing a Queen Standard activation where you're stepping into your sovereignty. But we've got to tune into our higher self, connect with our higher self, and ask the specific questions to get the answers to what's holding me back from really stepping into that Queen energy, that energy of discipline and connection and intuition and all of that, and receiving guidance and wisdom, right? The feminine receives that information. We use the masculine after that to activate and to take action. So throw Queen into the comments and we will send you the link, and I will catch you next Tuesday. See ya.